Right there. This is probably the last one I'm going to do about laughter tracks, unless I do a further analysis of it or a further history of it. This is another example, but I do it because a few of you have asked me to talk about Mock the Week. Now, this isn't a program I'm familiar with. I haven't. It's obviously not on television out here, and I didn't own a telly in London for the last sort of 15 years. But what I want you to do, I want you to separate yourself from what you're used to. It's that sense of critical distance. If you can just sort of pull back from those familiar signs and signals and codes and messages that, because of their familiarity, still manage to function. I want you to see them for what they are, rather than the overall kind of illusion that they create. And I want you to listen to the laughter track as well as the applause track. And I'll point out examples as we go, but imagine what that would mean for an actual audience to respond in that way. So here we go. This is, not only is this Mock the Week, this is the best bits. So these are the best bits of a taxpayer funded television show's comedy. One of their best, highest ratings comedy.
We come to scenes we'd like to see, so if everyone can make the way up.
And I mentioned this before, but this is how celebrities function. Celebrities give you familiarity. Celebrities, have you ever seen a foreign comedy show, and immediately, even if they're speaking English, because you don't recognise them, there's something lost. There's a distance there that they don't want you to have. And these faces on here, I couldn't name half of these people. I used to be in comedy, but I couldn't tell you half of these were. But I recognise the faces, so I'm immediately drawn into it. There's less of a gap between me and what's going on. But we can kind of engineer that gap. And we do that by breaking it down into small chunks, which is what I'm going to do.
Performance area. I'll read out this week's topics, and then we'll see what our panelists can come up with.
Right, what you need to know about this, though, when I was very young, I wanted to be a comedian when I was very young. I wanted to tell stories. I loved it. And I'd watch these kinds of shows on television. And in many ways, these shows bred a generation of very good comedians. I mean, none of them got signed or anything because they were all too good, which meant they wanted to tell the truth, which was the last thing what was required for such shows. But this isn't a quiz show. This is not a quiz show. It's presented as a quiz show, but it isn't. This is theatre. This is all an act. And this is really important. This is a work of theatre, in as much as it's been scripted. When I was a kid, I'd watch these kind of things, like Have I Got News for You? And they'd put a picture up, and people would respond to it that quick with the most hilarious things. When I was sort of 15, I thought it was hilarious. And they were that fast. And I used to think, how do they do that? That picture's been up on the screen half a second. And 3 or 4 of them, Paul Merton, Hislop, the guests, throwing out these amazing observations. Well, they're lying. It's not a quiz show. They haven't been asked a question and offered an answer. It's all scripted. This lot here. So in this section, they put something up on the screen, and all this lot improvise their improvised hilarious responses. Well, that's not what's happened. These people were given these images or writing or whatever, the stuff that goes up on the board, probably a fortnight ago, or at least a week. The better comedians among them, like the team captains, have almost certainly had a team of writers creating their answers for them, writing their scripts. And they make out that this is like off the cuff. I've got one. And they all, the way it's presented, they're all standing at the edge. They don't know when they're going to step forward. That bit's probably spontaneous. Who's actually going to get a go. But don't worry, the editor is going to put the best ones in. So that's by the by. The fact that they can pick and choose who's going first, that is scripted in post-production. That's edited, so that's irrelevant. And they've already got their answers. They've been written for them. And that's important. Because they're selling it to us like it's improvised, like it's a quiz, and it's not, it's theatre.
Okay, here we go. The first subject is unlikely things to hear on daytime TV.
Right, remember to listen for the laughter track and picture what kind of response. Imagine you're in an audience watching this. Imagine them people laughing as much as they do at whatever he says.
Well, these four date from the early part of last century. Some wear and tear, a little bit of tarnishing there. But please welcome today's loose women!
And the spattering of applause. I mean, I could barely understand him. Something about the women on Loose Women are old. And let's just listen to the applause, the laugh. That audience is supposedly not a chance in hell. And the reason that's relevant is they're instructing you that it's that funny. They're instructing you that it's worthy of an absolute communal belly laugh and applause. And they're saying to you, everyone else is laughing. What, are you different? Are you special and different? No, go along with it. This is funny. The joke didn't tell you it's funny. It doesn't need to. But the laughter and applause track are telling you it's funny. And there's an agenda there. This isn't passive. This isn't by the by. This isn't of no value. This is maintaining and promoting a sense of the world in which we live. It's these kind of things that create an Overton window of comedy. And the problem with that, the problem when you're instructed, when you're told what everyone else is laughing at, what everyone else is clapping at, when you're told what is acceptable, you're also being told what's not acceptable. And so's everyone else. And so our culture is established. And so what is outside of that is also established. And it's shocking because this Overton window of comedy is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And what essentially is that practice? Censorship. And it's enforced. And it's almost a part, it's almost our culture at the moment par excellence. It's almost like the ultimate expression of it. Because they're enforcing that huge amount of censorship through laughter. Amazing.
Please welcome today's loose women!
Welcome to Channel 4 Daytime. Or as you said to your boss this morning, working from home.
Right, so the joke is Channel 4 Daytime, or as you said to your boss, working from home. So the joke is, although you've thrown a sickie, and you said, although you said to your boss, hello, I'm going to work from home today, actually you're watching the television. That's the level of that comedy. You lied to your boss, and now you're watching television. But the instruction, the level of group response, the message you're receiving is, that's hilarious. You don't think so? Weirdo. You don't think so? Outsider. Don't you feel alienated enough in this hideously barbaric, individualistic culture? Why don't you just join in? Ready? I'll show you how. Brilliant.
Well, coming up next, two programmes you don't want to get confused. Escape to the Countryside and Bargain. Hang on.
The joke there, of course, is he nearly said the C word. And swearing's funny. Didn't you hear them all cracking up? Oh, we don't say that. We're a polite society. So, because he nearly did, we're cracking up. There's a familiar face we know. Look, it's cut to him and showing you that he's laughing too. Look, that'll be worth watching again. See how it cuts to the host, the biggest celebrities. The host is always the biggest star. There's always a hierarchy there, and there's a reason it always comes back to him, because he serves as like an anchor. Yeah, nearly. He serves as like an anchor. And that means that whatever happens, we can go back to him.
Countryside and Bargain. Hang on.
There you go, he's cracking up.
The next programme is Pointless. It's the Jeremy Kyle Show.
And more outrageous laughter and applause. I mean, let's have it right. The joke was that Jeremy Kyle is rubbish. Not like Mock the Week. I mean, this is quality television. This is entertainment. And please picture picture the visual example of the audio track you're provided. They are suggesting there is literally about 100 people going like this. Because that's the only way you get that response. And although they're not showing you that laughter, they're instructing it. And again, they're establishing a level. This is funny. Everyone believes it. And we are social people. And this is the real bitter truth about popular culture. Everything it offers us, it at once takes away from us. You know, we are crying out to be social. You know, dating apps, Tinder, social media. People are on Facebook and Twitter all fucking day. Desperate to communicate, desperate to make contact. Watching telly with a group of people. We can hear them laughing. People, comedians, celebrities, familiar faces. We all like a familiar face looking directly in our eyes, telling us stuff. But what's the upshot when we spend half our time watching television? What's the upshot when we spend the rest of our time watching social media? We're not socialising. We're not around people. And so that laughter track, that applause track, is actually welcoming. It's actually inviting. We actually crave it. And therefore we go along with it. And it becomes our social life. So ridiculously atomized, so violently alienated, and served a petty illusion of its opposite.
Coming up, Teletubbies Uncut. Yes, you're going to get to see Tinky Winky's Winky and Dipsy's La La.
Adults, Tinky Winky's Winky. Do you remember laughing at that sort of thing? When you were in the fucking sandpit when you were children. He said Willie. Come on. And yet, the audience...
Yes, you're going to get to see Tinky Winky's Winky and Dipsy's La La.
More applause. Bloody, you know, this is brilliant. This is the best bits. And this isn't cheap, this stuff. And this stuff isn't easy. You know, quiz shows take a lot of time. Probably a crew of about 40, 50 people put this together. Floor managers, assistant directors, assistant directors, director of photography, stage manager, floor manager, makeup, lights, sparks. Just so many people, so much money, so much time goes into producing this illusion of things that you crave. And by giving it to you, it takes all those things out of your existence. We'll watch one more. Brace yourself because everyone's laughing.
Next, Judge Judy. I have. She's shit.
I mean, just shocking. I mentioned it in the stream I did earlier. Someone in the comments suggested that I've had people saying you're overanalyzing, you're overthinking. There's no such thing. That's just a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, unless you can tell me where you draw the line when thinking about something, you need to be careful about where you inherited such ridiculous ideas of overanalyzing and overthinking. And someone else suggested that Man Bites Dog is just a horror film. It doesn't work like that. Are you really suggesting these things don't have a social and historical and political role and function? Culture is not neutral. This stuff is not passive. It has an active role to play in the life we lead and the culture we inhabit. And I hope you can see from what I've said today, to have things, to have censorship enforced by laughter,
Sweet, sweet, mama, sweet.